And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And I'm into movies. It happens a lot. I'll do really late movie reviews like we're about to get into today. But we're talking about a really late movie review. I want to talk about A Damsel in Distress. This movie came out in 1937, okay? It is, jeez, it's nearly 90 years old. It's crazy. But it is a fun movie. And you know what's interesting? My parents introduced me to a lot of different movies, whether it's comedies or actions or musicals or all that type of thing. But it was my mother-in-law who introduced me to Fred Astaire. And I had heard of Fred Astaire. I probably had seen one or two of his things before. But it wasn't until I met her that I saw several more of them. And A Damsel in Distress was an interesting movie for me to see because it was the first time I had actually seen the famed comedian duo Burns and Allen, George Burns and Gracie Allen, right? Now, I'd seen George Burns before in some of his later stuff, movies like Oh God, You Devil and things like that, right? But I had never seen him with Gracie. And oh man, that sent me down a rabbit hole of stuff too, because Gracie is the best part of this movie. So let me dive into, give you an idea what the plot is, such as it is, and then we'll dive into it. So the plot goeth thusly. The Lady Alice is being pushed to get married, and the household staff is taking bets on who she'll pick. Okay. This dude named Keggs, who I think is the butler, they don't actually give him a title that I remember seeing, has rigged it so that he gets the name of the most likely candidate in their pull names out of a hat type thing. And then there's this kid, Albert, who, again, no idea what he does. He's just there. And Albert, there aren't any names left for him. So he says, what about Mr. X? What about this random guy that she's into, right? She likes this American ski jumper. Okay. We never meet this American ski jumper, but he's important throughout the whole show. So he gets the name as part of the betting pool. All right. So this is sort of the setup for the movie. Now we jump over to our main trio, if you want to think of it this way, okay? We've got Fred Astaire, who plays this American entertainer named Jerry, who is dealing with a publicity problem caused by his publicist, played by George Burns, who is conveniently named George, who has a secretary conveniently named Gracie, played by Gracie Allen. Okay. What's fun is they're credited just as George and Gracie, but they actually refer to them as Mr. Burns and Miss Allen later in the movie too. It's silly. But the problem is George's publicity is too good. He's got the world convinced that Jerry is like the world's most eligible bachelor and women are throwing themselves at him. And so he's been trying to get away from the public and the craziness, okay? Fun times. Well, while he's in a cab in London, Lady Alice is trying to get away from Keggs, who's just been dogging her footsteps because her parents don't want her marrying this American dude or whatever. And she's trying to get away from Keggs, who's spying on her, basically, so she can meet up with the guy or something. And she ditches him by diving into a cab, which just happens to be Jerry's. Well, turns out Jerry's American. And so that gets Albert, who, remember, has Mr. X, this mystery American guy, as his person in the betting pool. And so now you start all the shenanigans of Kegs and Albert trying to set things up so that they win the bet because that's moral or something. Meanwhile, you've got Jerry, who's sort of caught up in this as sort of innocence, trying to think, hey, he's not trying, he does. He thinks Alice is kind of cute and would like to get to know her better. Okay. And there's a fairly typical story here that goes from the random meet cute in the cab to them eventually hooking up at the end. Okay. It's I'll straight up, this is not Fred Astaire's best movie. But that said, it's really fun. And what is fun, especially, is when you've got Astaire, Burns, and Allen all playing off each other. Because there was a reason Burns and Allen were one of the greatest comic duos of their day. Okay. And it's not George Burns. Though he's fun. So George Burns is a good comic in his own right, okay? Gracie is better. But Fred Astaire and George Burns playing off each other at times is fun too, okay? But Gracie is what makes this movie, okay? And she made a career playing sort of I want to call her the clueless goofball. But the reality is, I'm not entirely sure she's totally clueless. She's just on a slightly different wavelength than everybody else. And takes everything the wrong way, and usually in a way that is fun and optimistic and great. And her delivery of all of that sort of clueless optimism is perfect. It is so great. I mean, there's a fun scene at the very beginning of the movie where you're getting introduced to the characters. And again, she's the secretary and has shown up late for work again. But George can't fire her because her dad helped finance Jerry's first show. And so that's why they're all working. And so it's all right, keeping her around. But he tells her, after he gives her a pencil to sharpen, and she sharpens it down to like just a nub. And it's just, if your dad had done this, you wouldn't be working for me for one day. You wouldn't be working for me for like 1 minute. And she's like, well, a girl can't ask for better hours than that. And it's like, yeah. And that's just how it goes for her. And it is so much fun. Okay. Said she is the best part of this movie. A Damsel in Distress won an Academy Award in 1938 for Best Dance Direction. A category I think that has since been retired because we're not seeing that many musicals these days. But the dance numbers in this movie are really, really good. Okay. Mostly. Okay, I'm going to put a mostly on here because, one, Joan Fontaine, who plays Lady Alice, is not a dancer, or certainly not a good enough dancer to pair with Fred Astaire. Okay, now after 3 years and 7 movies of working with Ginger Rogers, right? This is definitely not. She's not Ginger. Okay, she doesn't dance nearly that well. So there are a lot of scenes of Fred Astaire sort of dancing around Fontaine's Alice, okay? But she's good enough, okay? But it's definitely, you can definitely see the skill gap there. You can also see it a little bit when Astaire and Burns and Allen are dancing together, because Fred Astaire was one of the best dancers in Hollywood. George Burns and Gracie Allen were not, but they were very good. But there's a difference between very good and elite, right? So it's weird to see. But there's a scene where the three of them are dancing with like little brooms, like handheld like whisk brooms, the type you would use to like I don't know, brush off something, okay? And you can see the three of them, and it almost goes in descending order. You've got of talents. You've got Fred Astaire, and you've got Gracie, and then you've got George Burns. And George, who is good, is sort of the weakest one in the group, but they're all very good, and it's fun to watch. And that particular dance is just fun. Apparently, that number was dished up because Burns and Allen had to audition for the movie, and this is one of the dances that, or this was the dance that they auditioned with, and I guess Fred Astaire liked it so much they had to put it in the movie somehow. So here it is, and it's a fun dance. But what really takes the cake, okay, is there's a song, a Stiff Upper Lip, I think it is, at a fairgrounds. And it's often the case in movies like this. They have the song. Song goes for 2 or 3 minutes. And there's another 10 minutes of dancing or something after that. And this is a long dance sequence, okay? But it's great. And it's sort of split up into segments. So you go from segment to segment. It's basically they're moving around the fairgrounds. And this is it's a great dance number. And it really, obviously you get Fred Astaire, but it also really features Gracie. And it's a fun number. And they've managed to get Gracie's character in there really well. I love it. Okay. There's a reason this won an Academy Award for Best Dance Direction. That was really good. The last one I want to call out was Fred Astaire's the last solo dance number. He gets the girl and he's going to celebrate. So he gets the band to kick up in some dance thing and he does his thing. Now, one thing I learned from my mother-in-law, who is, again, this huge Fred Astaire fan. Also a huge Star Trek fan, but also Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire, aside from being an excellent dancer, was also apparently an amazing drummer. And this is one of those times where they bring his drumming skills in as well, because he does this number in and around a drum set, which was all sorts of fun. Again, maybe not the best thing I've seen him in, but it is definitely a creative number as he grabs the sticks and he's drumming and he's kicking drums and he's doing all sorts of stuff as well as tapping and all this stuff. It's a fun number to end the movie on. And it's just a fun movie, okay? And it's interesting as I look back, right? And I've been watching movies for a long time because I'm old, okay? And I've watched, of course, grew up watching Disney movies, and I've, watched action movies, and I love Star Wars and The Princess Bride and Casablanca and all of this stuff, right? Love all of this stuff. But it's great coming back to some of these movies that were really from a different age. Because we're talking about 1937, and we're coming out of vaudeville, right? This is what entertainment was coming, leading into, the 19-teens, 1920s, 1930s. We're coming out of the vaudeville age and moving into something new. And and you see that in these movies. Really is a look back at a different culture in a lot of ways. And you can see, obviously, the difference. Movies were musicals because that's what people were into. Because that's what all of entertainment was. Sure, you had plays and you had non-musical plays, definitely. But vaudeville was huge. And variety shows and things like that were huge. And so as movies were coming out, talkies coming out, movies with sound, right? Which you're looking at, 19-teens, 1920s, I guess, something like that. Musicals were able to come to the theater, to the movie theater. And here it is. This really is a look back, and it is so amazing to see. Okay. And I will be the first to admit, okay, the plot of this movie is kind of slow. It's pretty straightforward. You know from the moment the credits roll that Fred Astaire is going to end up with the girl. And that's kind of how it goes, right? You also, when you see that the butler has rigged the betting pool so that he gets the most likely candidate, you know there's going to be shenanigans trying to set him up or break him apart or whatever, okay? And there are, in fact, shenanigans. It's fun, though. It really is. And it's nice to go back to a movie that is optimistic, that is not profane, right? The fact that, he's alone in a room with her is a scandal, right? Okay. Again, we're talking 1930s, right? But it is an interesting thing to see. And it's honestly, it's the chill nature of the movie. I think it's one of the things that I'm enjoying right now. Okay. Cause as I said, you watch a lot of movies these days and there's either a lot of action or it's snap, snap, snap as we cut through, however many cuts we need for half a second of film, right? It's crazy. What was it? The Taken 3 that had like 18 cuts of Liam Neeson jumping a fence. It was a little bit over the top on that one, I think. And now this is basically just, hey, they're here. We're going to stay on them for 5 minutes while we do this segment of the dance number. And then we're going to switch as they go down a slide and do a different segment of a dance number. Or now we'll cut and they're dancing in front of mirrors, right? And not just like regular mirrors. These are funhouse mirrors. So they're silly, right? They're warped and distorted. So they go from being, oh, look, here's normal people dancing normally, as you would going through a fun house, right? To now they're in the mirror, they're all distorted, so their heads are really big, or it's just their feet at the top and the bottom dancing, or all of this stuff. It's really fun. It's clever, and it's if you're into musicals at all. Okay, this is great. And the music is actually really good. Now, unlike some, I guess there's one song in it that I've heard outside the movie. What's it? Nice Work If You Can Get It, which I think is one of the songs at the end of the movie. One of the last numbers. But, I mean, it's not like Shall We Dance, which was Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, and you've got Tomato Tomato or Can't Take That Away From Me, which are featured in a number of different things. There's a really haunting version of it was a different song. I was going to say Mr. Holland's Opus had a great Gershwin number, but Someone to Watch Over Me, which is also fabulous, because the Gershwins were great. They were a phenomenal musical pair, right? I think George Gershwin wrote the music, Ira Gershwin wrote the lyrics, and most of the songs here are of that same type, right? It's Gershwin, right? And they were good at what they did, but they tended to stick to pretty much the same style for the most part for these types of songs. But the music is good, and again, it's the score is just there to fill the silence in a lot of ways. But when you actually get to a song, an actual musical number where they're singing and or dancing, the music is great. As I said, if you like Gershwin, this is definitely a movie that will tickle that aspect of your musical joy, right? This is good. And honestly, as someone who said I never seen Burns and Allen, right? George and Gracie for me were humpbacked whales. Okay, this was right. Star Trek 4 call out. You all know it. You know, I knew George and Gracie were a comic pair. I even knew that George Burns was the George of that pair. But I had never seen Gracie Allen. And this was my introduction to her. And I have got to go find more of this, because Gracie is so good. I was doing a little bit of research afterwards to find out a little bit more about Gracie, because I knew almost nothing about her. And it's one of those things, she paired up with George Burns. He was looking for he was part of a comic duo that was splitting up. And so he was looking for another partner for his comedy. And Gracie ended up being that partner. And they did a couple of shows and realized that she was the funny one. Okay. Think about this. George Burns, who's this comic legend, knew that Gracie was the funny one of the pair. Okay. And they changed up the routines so that Gracie got all the jokes, and George was basically the straight man. And it worked for decades. Okay, it worked for so many years. And they were, and they were married. I think they'd been working together for about 4 years before they got married, and they were married for the rest of their lives. I mean, that's one of those Hollywood marriages that's like, okay, yes, this is cool. Not to say it was without issues, okay? There was apparently one extramarital affair George Burns had, but, they worked through it very quickly, okay? I don't know all of the background, apparently there was a comment that, George was sort of feeling guilty about his affair, which probably rightly should be, and he bought Gracie this nice silver set, sort of as an apology, but he didn't tell her why he got it for her. And she never mentioned it. So it just sort of did a thing. Well, he had overheard her telling one of her friends, so, how did it go? Something along the lines of, maybe I'll have another affair because we could really use a good centerpiece for the table, right? And that was just the level of forgiveness and love that they had for each other. That, okay, he screwed up, and they worked out and said they were together for the rest of their lives. And throughout his entire life, George Burns always credited Gracie Allen with the success of their comedy. And I can see why. Okay. I totally can. And that's, actually that's one of the fun things too about, because Gracie is sort of on her own wavelength, but she's not stupid necessarily. She just takes things in a very different sense, right? Often a very literal sense, or something along those lines that's like, oh yeah, this is, you obviously meant it this other way, right? And I love that level of wordplay and stuff. So it's great. I love it. I should also comment a little bit more about Joan Fontaine, right? Who played Lady Alice. You don't see her much. She's fine, right? Other than the fact she doesn't dance well, or certainly not at any sort of level to put her there with Fred Astaire. She's great. And actually, the actor, I forgot to put him out, who plays her father, is kind of fun too. It's one of those guys, I swear I've seen him in all sorts of things. Just a character, old guy. But I liked him as a character too. So yeah, it's worth jumping into it. And I don't know. It's just one of those movies that just makes me happy. Okay, it's not. Is it a fabulous movie? No. Is it good? Yes. But more than anything, it just makes me happy, and that's I like that in a movie from time to time. Actually, more often than time to time. I'm not into movies that make me feel bad. So, generally not. No. But I like it, and let me know. Have you seen it? Do you like Fred Astaire movies or Burns and Allen or what? Let me know. Drop a comment here on YouTube or on Spotify, and I'd love to hear about it. Or in the Music Free Gaming Discord, happy to chat about it in the movies and books and TV channel. So all that fun stuff. So yeah, whatever. I'm happy to talk about movies. I could talk about movies all the time, which is why so many of the latest episodes have been about movies. It's because I like them. But that'll do it for today. Thank you all so much, and until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.